you're a horror fan like me, I'm sure you've seen the Conjuring movie series and were terrified by it. And you'll be pleased to know that the series is all based on a true story, or more specifically, the second movie of the franchise. Insane, I know. I'm your host Makayla, and today I will be walking you through the true story behind the Conjuring 2 movie, or as it's really called, the Enfield Poltergeist.
The voice was not made by the larynx, the voice box, but by the false vocal fold, which is above the larynx. And you only use that when you lose your voice and you talk like that. Well, if you talk like that for more than a couple of minutes, you start getting a sore throat. Talk like that for 5 minutes or so and you're going to start doing damage to your throat. And yet this voice used to speak up to 3 hours at a time. Not continuously, of course, but up to 3 hours at a time without the girl showing any distress at all. Absolutely.
In the movie The Conjuring 2, paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren travel to England to investigate the Enfield haunting. Though the film is fictional, the alleged haunting in North London did take place in the 1970s. During that time, a single mother named Peggy Hodgson and her 4 children reported a series of bizarre incidences that happened at their home. Tons of eyewitnesses later backed them up, describing items that flew through the air, matches that spontaneously burst into flames, and a voice of an old man that spoke through one of the Hodgson's young daughters. Over time, some have come to see the Enfield Poltergeist as concrete evidence of the paranormal. Others think that the entire haunting was orchestrated by the family who lived in the home. And if you enjoy this video, make sure to subscribe for more spooky and scary content. But without further ado, let's get started with the story. According to Peggy Hodgson, the haunting of her home at 284 Green Street, Enfield in North London, started in August 1977. Peggy, who lived there with her 4 children, Margaret, who was 12, Janet, who was 11, Johnny, who was 10, and Billy, who was 7, claimed that she first knew something was up after there was a loud crash upstairs in the home. When Peggy went to investigate, she found Margaret and Janet petrified in the corner of their bedroom. "We told her mom the chest of the drawers was moving toward the bedroom door," Janet said. She said, "Oh, don't be silly." But the chest then slid across the room. "I just couldn't believe it," Peggy said. "In fact, I pushed it back twice, and a third time I couldn't move it." As a strange knocking noise seemed to spread through the house, Peggy went to get help. She first reached out to a neighbor and then the police. When police constable Carolyn Heaps arrived on the scene, she said that she witnessed a chair moving on its own. "It came off the floor, maybe a ½ inch, I should say," Heaps recalled.
It came off the floor, or maybe a ½ inch, I should say, and I saw it slide off to the right, about 3.5 to 4 feet before it came to rest. I checked to see whether or not it could possibly have slid along the floor. I placed a marble on the floor to see whether or not the marble would go in the same direction as the chair did, and it didn't roll at all. I checked for wires under the cushion of the chair, and I could find no explanation at all.
"And I saw it slide off to the right about 3.5 to 4 feet before it came to rest." As time went on, the strange events at the home seemed to escalate more and more. The Enfield Poltergeist seemed particularly focused on 11-year-old Janet. Quote, "I was used and abused," Janet recalled. "Some unknown force," she said, "yanked her through the air and forced her to levitate." Additionally, Janet began speaking in the creepy voice of an older man. Quote, "Just before I died, I went blind, and then I had a hemorrhage, and I fell asleep and I died in that chair in the corner downstairs," the voice said through Janet on recorded audio. Chillingly, a former occupant of the house named Bill Wilkins had passed in that same exact way years earlier. In total, over 30 people also claimed to have experienced some kind of paranormal event during the Enfield haunting. They include reporters, police officers, lawyers, psychic researchers, and of course, the Hodgson family. But not everyone was convinced that the Enfield Poltergeist was real. Some believed that Janet and her siblings faked the entire thing. One of the many reasons that the haunted house in Enfield became such a worldwide sensation was because many of the paranormal events took place inside the home were captured on film. One image shows her midair in a seemingly impossible leap. 2 of the investigators in the Society for Psychical Research case maintained that they believed the haunting was genuine and caught many of the now infamous images on film. Much of the equipment used in their investigation was often found to be malfunctioning upon entering the Hodgson household, despite working perfectly well beforehand. However, Janet was found to have hidden a tape recorder and was videotaped bending spoons on another occasion. Janet, however, admitted to doing so, but she said her siblings were just trying to see if anyone could tell the difference, and Janet insists that they faked paranormal events just, quote, 2% of the time. The investigators believe that much of the activity surrounding the Enfield ghost was genuine. However, they suspect that some of the occurrences were exaggerated by Janet for increased attention by reporters. For example, someone said that Bill, one of the voices Janet became most well known for, had some similar vocal tics and habits to Janet, such as changing the topic of conversation often. Graham Morris, a Daily Mirror photographer, photographer, who also visited the house at the family's request, described, quote, chaos, saying things started flying around, people were screaming. Morse himself even got hit by a flying Lego. By 1978, the Enfield haunting had attracted the attention of American paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. As depicted in the Conjuring 2 film, the Warrens came to England to investigate what was happening, though their involvement was not as expansive as it was in the film. In fact, the Warrens were only there for one day. The Warrens did study the case and conclude that it was an authentic haunting. Now, you couldn't record the dangerous, threatening atmosphere inside the little house, Ed Warren later said, but you could film the levitations, teleportations, and dematerializations of people and objects that were happening there, not to mention the many hundreds of hours of tape recordings made of these spirit voices speaking out loud in the rooms. What's the most terrifying part of this whole thing, you might ask? It is captured on video that is still accessible today. So buckle up, because I'm about to make your skin crawl. On one instance, Janet's voice went from this:
how does it feel to be haunted by a poltergeist?
It's not haunted.
Shut up.
Why isn't it haunted?
I don't know.
Does it frighten you, the things that happen here?
Oh, well, it did first, but now I've got more used to it, and you learn to accept the things that happen. It slang covered it, Mum. My idiot Mum. Slung a bookshelf at my ear.
Have you tried telling it to go away?
Yes,
Yeah,
many
no
times.
answer, nothing.
And what does it reply?
No, it won't. It's staying another 6-7 years.
To this.
I was going to ask the same question as I asked earlier. How many voices are there?
600.
600 the voices.
I know the joke.
How many really are there, Margaret?
I think so far we've had 10
Three.
sensible voices, but the rest of the names are absolute rubbish.
Now that was the first time we heard the voice, and since then we've been hearing it again and again, and it's been getting louder and louder.
Then, after a year and a half of activity, the phenomena at the Enfield house abruptly came to an end. No one really knew why, though. But these sorts of hauntings are common with poltergeists. They stop, they start, and the family gets back to normal. During that year and a half, the family could not find a source of any of these activities, at least in the beginning. Whether or not the Hodgson family was telling the whole truth remains to be unknown, but people still can't come up with a reasonable explanation for the Bill story. Can you? Let us know what you think happened in the comments below, and we will see you next time.